I bought every single generation of the Nintendo DS, all the way from the original to the new 3DS XL, to answer one big question. Which one is the best to buy in 2025? Right, so let's take it back to where it all started. The first prototype of a DS was revealed at E3 2004, and it's safe to say people were excited.
I'm here for the Nintendo DS, and this guy's loving.
The fact that the screen was split into two, with the bottom portion being a touchscreen, was mind-blowing stuff at the time. And surprisingly enough, I actually used to own one. Where it is now, I have no idea. So I basically had to go and buy one. And I went on eBay and I found this one for £30, right? And I thought, wow, fantastic, what a deal. And it's boxed. And you know, it just sounded too good to be true. And it was. It fucking stinks. Instantly, the packaging had like a weird smell, but I thought, you know what, it is what it is. No. When I opened it, not only was the console like stained yellow from God knows what, the hinge was absolutely destroyed, and the best part I found out whilst recording some B-roll, it doesn't even load games. This feels illegal, this does. Still got some of the manuals. Holy shit. Bro, this is battered. It doesn't really show on camera, but this thing is like piss stained. The hinge is also broke. Oh my god, bro, it sits up. Was it power on? Oh, it's got battery. That is nostalgic. That is fucking nostalgic. Oh my god. I mean, granted, I got what I paid for. It was only £30, so I cannot complain. And also, it came with some games. Some pretty desirable ones too. Frozen, Moshi Monsters, Sims 2 Pets, and Fashion Dogs. You know, it's not the best physical example I could have showed you guys, but don't let that take away from the fact that that console was an absolute beast at the time. It had Wi-Fi compatibility, a built-in microphone, and it even played GBA games. And the reason you can play GBA games on it is because Nintendo claimed that the DS was not a successor, but it was actually part of the family of GBA. So that meant it was the SP, the Advance, and then the DS, but as we all know now, that wasn't the case. Now, with all that being said, there was a few teething problems. As impressive as it was at the time, the design was quite bulky and it wasn't much different to what they showed off at E3 2004. As you've already seen, the hinges are pretty shit, and they were very prone to just snapping. Every time you click one of these back, it felt like you were just snapping its neck. And everyone's biggest complaint was the screen. They were just way too dim, especially compared to the Game Boy Advance ones. And funnily enough, actually, this was my first ever console. Not this specific one, I had it in a more purple. But it's just crazy to think that, like, this thing kickstarted me just yapping on about games in my bedroom. Thanks a lot, mate, you know what I mean? Every time that I do see this specific model of the DS, I always think back to that Mario Kart battle level. And speaking of Mario Kart, this console brought us many great games. I used to play New Super Mario Bros, Animal Crossing Wild World, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Fucking banger, mate. Banger! That game was so hard for no reason. And like I've said, I'm going to rate all these consoles on whether or not they still hold up nowadays. As great as the original DS was, there's not too much reason to buy it nowadays. So with that being said, I'm going to give it a C rating, which may seem low, but I think it's very solid, especially for a first attempt. Now, Nintendo decided that it's time to just redesign and refine the DS, and that's when it came out with the DS Lite. The console had a way more ergonomic design, and it kind of appealed to more of a broader audience. By the way, my girlfriend gifted me this pink one, hence why it's pink. I wouldn't own anything pink, so... Meow! This console to me was basically like the Wii. It literally did not matter who you were, your nan had one. And the only game they were playing was Brain Train Academy. The Lite design was a huge success, and it came with many great features. It had a way better battery life, it was smaller, lighter, remained backwards compatible, and even had a brighter screen. So in every single way, it just kind of shit on the original. And it's arguably a perfect revision of what they had with the original DS. But there was still one thing they just couldn't fix, and that was the hinges. These things still sucked. What is this? This is how it's meant to sit up. Like, what's going on? For me, this is definitely deserving of... It's arguably A, but I'm going to put it in B. And that's because of the next console, the DSi. Oh my god. Now, listen, this thing released about 2009, I think it was, and it was the one I spent the most time on. But I actually didn't know until making this video why it's actually called DSi, and I think the I is like a play on words with eyeball, because it has a camera. What the fuck is that name? I used to have a blue DSi, specifically a DSi XL, but when it came to making this video, could not find it anywhere. So I did what any other responsible adult would do, and I brought myself a boxed version for £130. Yeah, now this one I'm excited to open on video. It is the DSi XL. This is the wine red colour. Let's open it up. Ooh. To be honest with you, I mean, I know I paid £130 for it, but it's actually not in a bad condition. Let's see if it turns on. Oh, they all turned on. Nostalgic as fuck. Now, I brought this from CEX, and I've just seen in the top, the name of the person who owns this console is CEX. Now, the problem was, they did actually get rid of the GBA slot, which is a shame if you play GBA games, and I used to on my DS Lite, but I was not too bothered. You know why I wasn't bothered? Because I was too busy playing fucking Flipnote. Guys, please, there's got to be someone out there who loves Flipnote as much as I did. I'm getting a little bit too excited, so let me just show you what an example of a Flipnote video is.
Hey, if you had a time machine, where would you go? Ow! Here.
Yeah, that was just peak humor back then. And the DSi was the first console to give us basically like a shop, like an online marketplace to download games directly onto the console, which was quite cool. I don't actually remember if I used it back then. Like I said, I was about 6, 7 years old, so like... The DSi was basically the last iteration of the DS. So you had the original, the Lite, and the DSi. That was the 3. And to be honest, it probably actually is the best out of the 3, I want to say. But yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you just want to play a DS game, get yourself or get out your DSi, whether it is the XL or not. I'm trying to think, what games would I have played on the DSi? Obviously, I would have been playing Pokemon Platinum, without a doubt. I'll probably throw some games on the screen right now of what I used to play on the DSi, because right now I literally can't think, but there's definitely some. Definitely. This console is 100% A tier. Now, for me, guys, this is where it gets a little bit rocky, because now we're going to talk about the 3DS. And I know that's going to be a lot of your guys' first ever DS. Problem is, it was the first one I didn't own. And I think it's because at the time, like, I was kind of like, I'm too cool for DSs, I don't need that shit. I think I was like more into like Battlefield and Black Ops 2. So that's why I never really asked for one. The whole selling point of the 3DS, believe it or not, is the 3D feature that it came with. And I know at the time, this is when like 3D was a big thing. Like I remember I used to have a friend's house who had a 3D TV and I thought, wow, this is the bollocks. Do you know what I mean? I try and play now, and I don't know if it's because I'm just such an old man, but my retinas are burning. You know? And obviously without that feature, it's just like an updated DSi. To me anyway. Obviously I know you've got the little circle like control thing, which is quite cool because it's basically what the DS was kind of lacking. Yeah, like I just don't think it's like that much of an upgrade, especially with like the other consoles I've still got to discuss. And I think also the console released with like such a high price point at the time, where they actually dropped it significantly literally months later after release. Like that is so unheard of. Like, and even though it sold so well, especially compared to the Vita, which came out at the same time, I'm a bit torn on this one. I can see why people actually love it. Obviously this is the console that introduced us to like Street Pass, which I think was a cool idea. And I just think in terms of me back then, if I was more interested in the DS, would I have upgraded from the DSi to that? Probably not. Yeah, I can definitely see why people like it, but for me, it's just not the one. I would probably give this one a B tier, which obviously isn't bad. I definitely wouldn't say, oh, don't buy it nowadays, because it's still good. Like, obviously, it's still a very good console. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, right? But I actually think the 2DS is actually kind of fire. They released a whole new console, basically the same as the 3DS, but without the 3D feature. And I think that's where it gets a little bit confusing as well, because like, why have we gone from 3DS to 2DS? Imagine you're someone's grandparent trying to buy the grandson a console, and you're just not gonna know what to get. Just like the 3DS, I never owned the 2DS, but my brother's actually got the Pokemon Sun and Moon version, which was actually quite cool. I did quite like it. I was quite envious. I just think it's way more comfortable to hold as well. Like, the 3DS for me is quite small, and I think it also released at quite a low price point to get people into the whole like 3DS and 2DS era of the console. But so I'd also give that a B rating. So for me, the 3DS gets a B rating, and I'd probably give the 2DS a B plus. Yeah, again, my opinion. This is why I don't do opinionated videos. Now here we are on the final console, and it's basically the reason why I wanted to make this video. After the 3DS, after the 2DS, to make it less confusing in a way, they released the final ever versions of a DS, which was the new 3DS and the new 2DS. Their naming system's horrendous. I was really wanting the new 3DS XL. You know what? The one console I don't have on video is the new 2DS XL or the new 2DS because I don't have a reason. I kind of forgot. But I tell you what, that console always reminds me of... Do you remember that one Johnny Test episode where they had the Pokemon ripoff? When he loaded up his console, it just reminds me of that. These two consoles are basically, for me, at the same rating. I give these both S tier. If you want to get yourself a DS in today's day, I would definitely recommend one of these two. Because obviously, one, they're the most powerful, the most up-to-date, and you can literally play, obviously, both 3DS games and normal DS games without a single worry. You can load any of them up. And obviously, like I said, I don't have the new 2DS, but I did get myself a new 3DS XL. And just look at that colour, you know, metallic blue. Granted, it has a couple more scuffs on it than, but it's fully working. No issues with it. And the reason why I chose this over the new 2DS is basically because I think this is more DSi. Is that a word? That's a new word now, new DSi. You can obviously play every single game from the 3DS and the DS catalogue. I know it sounds like a very easy and honest answer. Yeah, of course the newest one's the best one, but it literally is. So yeah, if you're debating on getting a DS, I would definitely say the new 2DS or 3DS. But if you don't want to spend that much, because to be fair, they are quite pricey, definitely get yourself a DSi XL. Get yourself a DS right now.